We are building human capital for the creative industries. The Maurice Academy of Design and Craft will be live on every other Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. right here on Power 102 FM. We will be discussing strategies for developing our creative sector. Join our host, Calvin Maurice, as we speak to practitioners, both local and international. The Maurice Academy of Design and Craft will share upcoming dynamic training sessions. Join us for effective tools to build your creative dreams. For upcoming courses, please call 289-8054 or visit our Facebook page, the Maurice Academy of Design and Craft, changing lives the creative way.
Welcome again to our program focused on the creative industry. I'm your host, Calvin Maurice from the Maurice Academy of Design and Craft. And this morning we have Shivani Surnarayan from the University of the West Indies. And our topic this morning is going to be community tourism and the benefit towards the creative industries. So welcome, Shivani.
Thank you, Calvin.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Later on, we'll have another person calling in, Dr. Isadora Edwards, and she's going to also give such wonderful contribution with regards to community tourism. But let's talk to you, Shivani. So, how are you this morning?
Very good. Even better to be here.
Well, after I heard you in the symposium, and I must say the Carifesta was, wow, a wonderful session there, and the symposia that the Ministry of Community Development had. And when I heard your contribution in regards to community tourism, I thought that, listen, I must have you on the program to talk about community tourism and how it relates to the creative industry. So tell me, what are your thoughts on it, Shivani?
All right. So thanks, Calvin. Community tourism, many of us keep hearing about community tourism recently. There's a difference with community tourism and mass tourism. As many of us would know, community tourism is for the particular communities where we have specific tourist attractions. And all communities, we have major tourist attractions that we can sell to the general world, general public, different communities, not only in Trinidad, but right across. And the question is, how do we do it? I believe what we need to do a lot of in Trinidad is to ensure that everyone sees that community tourism is such an important aspect. It really is selling ourselves, selling people looking for something. They're looking for something different. Right. They're not looking only for beaches, but more the indigenous and the culture. And I'm sure you'll recollect when Dr. Andrew Wang, the World Craft Council president, when he came, that was the first thing, and that just stood out with me all the time. What does he really see? What does he really want? He's not interested in the beaches.
Exactly.
He's interested in the culture and what do we have to offer.
And you know what I thought about that as well, because when Dr. Wang came, he wanted to know, as he visited over the 2 days, Valencia and Arima, what is particular to this community. And I think his focus, his central discussion was on the context of community tourism. What do they have to offer? What is unique to this community that I would like to leave the U.S. and come and visit and see, And of course, we saw that both in Arima and in Valencia. And particularly we talk about Princestown this morning because, Princeton was really mind-blowing. And so it has to do with what the community can offer in their artifacts, in their crafts, in their folklore, So do you have examples of this?
Right. So you started, Calvin, in saying that the communities and what do we have to offer. But one main point will be how do we sell it and really trying to implement a project management framework for it? Because everything that we have, many of us, we have excellent communities, we have many things to offer. Some persons know about it, some persons don't know about it. But the first thing I look at is a project management approach for community tourism, and really not only for community tourism, but for the entire creative sector.
Exactly so, because take, for example, I always bring my brother into this because he went to Italy and he did a spiritual walk into the Roman Catholic Church, did a spiritual journey. And it took him 9 days. He had to walk. It wasn't a joyride, And it was, as you will call it, soul-searching, But he left Canada to go to Italy. And that was an attraction. And not only he did that, but a number of individuals go to that particular village in Italy All right, and that is also community tourism.
That's major community tourism.
Right. How can we do that? Because we have Tobago, that you have the Blue Food Festival, and we will leave here and we'll go to Tobago to enjoy all the different meals and all different preparation for the Blue Food Festival.
So I'm happy you spoke about the pilgrimage, and part of the project management. So I'm taking it from a project management approach, a top-down approach, and then we have the bottom approach in projects. It's one of the major critical factors of community tourism is the location of the community and the level of infrastructure development. So I'm bringing in these terms one time, infrastructure development for community tourism. And, you started the conversation and continuing, what are certain examples, some best practices throughout the Caribbean that we have already seen infrastructure development with community tourism and the location of the community?
Right.
We have in Dominica the Ecotourism Development Program, built a retaining wall and new jetty for the Indian River. We have in Barbados, the government invested in infrastructure development for the fish fry that everybody knows about. So what could we do in Trinidad? You mentioned a pilgrimage. We have the Superior Mai in Superior.
Right.
Such a major festival, the church, La Divina Pastora, and we need to promote it more where we have special heritage stores coming to the church, and of course, by doing that, we develop the Superior region.
And it's not only on a particular day, but continuous, bringing people to that particular community because of that particular church or the event at that particular
So building
church.
on what you said with your brother, we could have a heritage store in Trinidad right here where people come to see heritage and they come to do the pilgrimage in Superior.
And I understand last week or last 2 weeks they had an ancestral walk in Tobago.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And a lot of persons went across there to participate in that ancestral walk. So we having it around, and we want to hear the success stories, and we want to know the history, because a lot of us do not know about our history, Shivani, and the wealth of history that we have. And that's why Dr. Edwards blew me out last Friday, in terms of when I say blow me out, in terms of the wealth of information she had, and what I found out about Princess Tong, Moruga, Americans, and their culture, and how it was formed, the various names, the naming of the communities, and she brought it in full context. And when she called in, she will call in a while, and she will give us further information on that.
I was very impressed also with Dr. Edwards in reference to the hill rice, where persons, and I know you went and you got some hill rice in the supermarket, and you said you're going to cook it.
No, but I had hill rice there, remember, the festival had hill rice.
But you're going to try to cook it after too.
Yes, and that's another thing. And so much so, somebody sent me a video with hill rice being cooked. And so we buy all these expensive rice from abroad, and we have it right here.
Local again?
Yes,
local
from
again.
Moruga. Mm-hmm. And it should be promoted. So, Shivani, tell me something again in regards, so you take it from a project management perspective, and really, what do you think is basic infrastructure required in a community to promote and sustain community tourism? So,
as we were speaking about the location of the community and the level of infrastructure development, and I'm taking it to Superior community with the church, the La Divina Pastora. What type of infrastructure development that we could have? We could have hotels, bed and breakfast, that will create new development, that will create new business and sustain business, where persons from across the world will come to this pilgrimage.
Because already La Divina Pastora, that whole shrine, that whole concept in terms of the religious concept of soul searching, you find that a lot of locals go to Superior and they visit the church and do devotions to the Divina Pastora. So it's how now you market, goes back to marketing again. How can you market that to the outer communities, to foreigners to come based on that?
How do we market? And also really trying to let the community be involved in it, where part of it's a cooperative model that we, are going to implement for the Superior region.
Right.
A cooperative model, where we get buy-in into, the community members for this project.
That's great. So let's see if we could get Dr. Edwards to come in now and join our conversation and give us that context, particularly with Princestown, because we talk about Superior, but now we can talk about Princestown because there are very many communities in Trinidad that can enjoy this type of tourism.
Hi.
So,
Okay.
so you remember Shivani? Shivani, we are discussing your wonderful presentation and your research into the whole thing of sustainable development through our heritage.
Yes.
We contexted in terms of community tourism, and you gave us
Yes.
that wonderful train ride.
A day trip.
A day trip. So
Yes.
I would like you to join the conversation and tell us something about Princestown, particularly as it relates to community tourism and some of your research as in that context.
Yeah. The thing with Princestown as a tourism potential, heritage tourism potential, is really, as I quote Victor Turner, a realm of pure possibility. It's a realm of pure possibility because there's so much that could happen. Not much is being done at the moment, but there's so much that is possible because the space, the heritage space, is there. The people are walking around with their heritage ancestry there. Some of the institutions are still there, buildings, the architecture to some extent, and so on. So the possibility is there. What I hope to see, what I hope to probably make some impact on based on my research, is that people will take some of these ideas based on research, and because it's based on research, it has validity, and run with it. That's what I hope would happen.
So could you just, in a brief synopsis, give us an idea about your research? I know you can't go into length as what you did was done on Friday.
Yeah. Very briefly, because I am a citizen, a resident, whatever you call it, from Princestown. I was born here. My two grandfathers lived, one in the north and one in the south. And so I grew up with a whole lot of ancestral oral stories when I started my studies, and I work in the community. So in terms of I went to the American School, Cohen Hamilton Secondary, St. Stephen's College, all that kind of thing. And when I started my university studies, and I realized, you started to realize all of the heritage consciousness, I started to realize that the stories that I lived were very much alive in this community. And then I started digging deeper. So my master's, and in particular my PhD, led me to dig to the point where you realize, wait now, this community is no ordinary community. Nobody seems to know that, but it is no ordinary community. What I did, because my background is theater, I decided to tap into these oral narratives that weren't really narratives as such, but whatever little pockets were still there. So I had to gather a cross-section of elders and source them, and had I think it's 14 interviews. And what I did with that information, now I shaped that information through themes. I shaped it into a script for theater. So what I was looking at is whether the younger members of the community who didn't seem to know anything about a heritage could take this data or this material and work with it in the space through their own stories and build a play and stage it. And I did that. And we had 2 performances at the Naprima Bowl. There were 21 members of the cast, and I think just about 19 of them were from Princestown and had ancestry from First People to Indian indentureship and Chinese, or the whole range. Because that's one of the things, the findings in my research was a unique range of people who settled in this community.
So could you give us a brief review of the persons, the communities, the ancestry?
Right. Princestown was, previous to being named Princestown in 1880, it was then the Shundi Nazareth de Savannah Grande, which was Spanish, and previous to that, we don't know what it was called. I want to think, my proposal is that it was called Irie. My village, Irie Village, is just a mile out of there. So you had the very strong presence of First People. In fact, when the Spanish set up their missions, the Savannah Grande Mission was one of the largest in the country. Most people don't know that, and there's a reason for that, because the presence of First People in this district was probably very heavy. So you had the First People, then you had the Spanish, and they started one of the earliest Catholic churches in 1687, which still exists in Princestown, Church of the Holy Cross. And then you had the Mandingos, a group of which settled just outside of Princestown. Then you had Americans settled all around Princestown. And then you had, well, of course, you had Chinese. Oh, and you had, before even the Americans, you had, with the cedula in 1783, you had some estates. So there are still some remnants of names of estates and some remnants of cocoa estates all around Tableland, all of those in Moruga and so on, cocoa and coffee. So you had, that came with the cedula, and you had enslaved people there with the cedula groups. Then, of course, you had Americans in 1816 around there coming all around Princestown. And then you had the Chinese, and then you had indentured, and you had the Indian indentured laborers, and you had a very, very strong presence of Syrian Lebanese, because the Princestown community was so highly commercial at that time. So, it attracted the Syrian Lebanese community. There were a number of stores that started in Princestown and branched off into other areas of the country, So that's the unique group of people we have, almost exclusive to Princestown. And then you have a whole lot of other firsts that took place. The first tram came to Princestown as early as before 1844. The first train line was to Princestown, all of these things.
But tell me something.
A whole lot more.
Let us say cutting across. But tell me something.
That's okay.
How does all that history and heritage conform itself to the creative industry and community tourism? How does it form itself into that context?
Right. Now, there is I don't want to say a shift. There is a movement, global movement, towards rediscovering ancestry, towards heritage and heritage diaspora spaces. There are studies by a number of international bodies that are discovering the big data to show this. And it shows itself in the increase in travel by regular middle class people, and forums like ancestry.com, archive.org, all of these things,
right,
where people there is the need for heritage. There is a hunger and a need for heritage. Diaspora spaces in the Caribbean, the diaspora need of so many of our ancestors who went off to, first world countries and so on, are trying to come back and see what happened to the spaces and the people they left. So you have that. So there is a need for that, so therefore there's a market for packaging this. There is a market for packaging what I'm talking about, my research, into a product that would attract people to come to the community. And that's why I've taken people on the day trip.
Right. But give us in some sense how Princestown and the surrounding community, Moruga and all the different areas will form a good project for the creative community tourism. In what way? Can you explain that in some...
I know, for example, that Moruga has started a number of initiatives in terms of tourism. The Moruga Museum, you have cocoa and coffee, something. There's a museum there too. And American groups have started becoming very, very active in the last few years. So you have that area, the Moruga American area. I can't say that much is happening in the St. Julian Rio Claro area.
But you
that
see
is
an
also
opportunity. You see an opportunity
Yes.
for all these different, because I had some of the hill rice on Friday.
Right, you did?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and
Yes.
I pulled up on two YouTube videos
Yes.
with the cooking of the hill rice, and I'm looking to
Yes.
buy hill rice now. So
Yes.
there is heritage in our food. There is heritage with
There is the
in our
Princestown
dance.
heritage in particular is very, very, very strong in food. Because, Doubles was born in Princestown.
Okay.
And it might sound a little flippant, but it was born in Princestown.
So give us an example of that.
But there was Mr. Ali Chote, I think. His house is still standing in Greenwich, the original old house. There's another claim by a Mr. Dean, who these guys used to go to Naparima Boys to sell doubles, to sell bara. What
Right.
the Indian people used to call was bara and chana.
Right.
And I am old enough to have that memory. They used to serve the bara and chana. And then the boys in Naparima, of course, as boys, they used to want to double it up. So they would say double it. And these guys selling this thing day after day after day, it became doubles.
Okay.
And it's as simple as that, and it is traceable to these people, So I think the Dean guy wrote some sort of documented in a book, but the Ali's people, I am still in contact with them. They were part of my research, and they're still continuing with the thing. Of course, it's global now.
Right, it is.
But you also, what they're doing with the hill rice is also very important. Because even before the doubles, you had the hill rice. And in part of my research, the wonderful, wonderful stories about how, the families would plant the hill rice and how they would save it, and anybody who passed by, any relative or anybody, have a little bit of hill rice, and the intangible heritage that came with the culinary heritage.
Exactly that.
It's amazing. So that the ground provision also, although that is so widespread, ground provision in this area of Princestown has a lot of history too.
The academy is involved in a lot of handicraft, as you know, balloon artistry,
Yes.
and all these
Yes.
different areas we training. And I asked you last week about what craft do you believe is synonymous with, for example, Americans?
Woodwork.
Woodwork.
One of the things I found was that, as I said, these guys who came, these people who came, they weren't unskilled. They were skilled. They were first to begin with. They were Marines, but they were also skilled. A lot of the work that they ended up doing was in the bushes because they placed them in the forest to live, basically. They placed them because they were soldiers, trained soldiers. They placed them away from any of the Africans who had settled here before to prevent, mobilization and so on. So any sort of potential revolution and so on, because they were so skilled. So they placed them in the areas that were forest.
Well, thank you
Out of
so
that,
much.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much again for giving us and sharing all this information. I really will want to host you one of these days for you to provide me with even more information
Yes.
and engage a conversation about the success stories related to Princestown and this heritage project. So all the best. I hope that you publish your work very soon, so we'll be able to
Yes.
have greater insight in all that research that you did.
Okay.
Thank you again,
very much.
Dr. Edwards.
Okay. Thank you.
So we were speaking to Dr. Isadora Edwards, researcher, and she is in the area of searching out the ancestry and the whole history behind Princeton and its community, Moruga, and heritage, the whole heritage behind it. So, Shivani, as we close, you heard she talk about cocoa and coffee, our favorite topic.
Yes, coffee and cocoa.
So the Maurice Academy of Design and Craft we also partner with UE, University of the West Indies Open Campus, to do the cocoa bean to bar program. And I know we're going to do another one come October. And a lot of people keep calling in about it. And so persons who are interested in these and some of the other programs the Maurice Academy is involved with outside of our University of West Indies Open Campus, please go on our Facebook page, the Maurice Academy of Design and Craft, and see all the things that we offer that you can get involved with in regards to the creative industry. But the last Bean to Bar program, it was certainly a success. So persons start, as you realize, Shivani, by understanding the cocoa estate, going around doing the agronomy, and also learning about the entire process from bean to actually chipping the bean, actually cracking the bean, and grinding the bean, and going through the various processes to make chocolate. So they left the workshop with chocolate, and they were just amazed that they actually made this chocolate. But Shivani, in rounding off our conversation this morning as it relates to community tourism, what are the key points that you'll want to leave with us?
Right. So major points, as we said, we need to promote the heritage stores more. We need to promote what we have, our communities, what we have, like especially what Dr. Edwards spoke about her research in Princeton, and there are many other communities to promote the particular areas for tourism, community tourism, selling something. As we, the three of us here this morning keep speaking about persons who want to know their heritage, right. And we can sell that to the general world where persons could come and do their pilgrimage. So definitely what I want to see, and I know will come out of this, is to form cooperatives for community tourism where we will team up with different communities to promote the heritage, and not only heritage, but anything that the communities got to offer. Also, we spoke about the marketing. Many persons, we have a good product, but what is our USP? What is our unique selling point? So right. We need to know that, and we need to get it out to the world to market it. Marketing, we have in South Africa, many different projects. One was the information system to promote community-based tourism. So we need to do a lot more of that in Trinidad, where app development and virtual reality are technology projects. Right. Virtual reality where persons can stay wherever they are in the world and actually feel as if they came to Trinidad and visited the La Divina Pastoral. And by seeing that, they want to come more. So right. We want to use the technology to get people to come into Trinidad. And
therefore, I know Ministry of the Tourism Company they are doing a lot of work in terms of getting the wider public involved in this whole talk about tourism, and as you say, not mass marketing tourism, but from a community-based tourism perspective,
which we know we have a lot on.
Yeah, and we have too.
You also mentioned a lot about the cocoa. As we look forward for the education drive for the cocoa industry, which is part of community tourism, of course, again, the development of some new programs for the cocoa. The Bean to Bar that we had was a massive success. It was a one-day workshop right. Where persons were allowed to actually make their chocolates, and they learned the entire process. I know we are also in development, UE Open Campus and Maurice Academy, we are also in development of a one-year program, a certificate in cocoa entrepreneurship.
Right, professional certificate,
yes, a one-year program.
Yes. So I know a lot of people, another persons calling in about that already, but so that we're soon on board.
Please stand by, as we say, right? Please stand by. Yes, a one-year program.
So that's it for this week. I would also this is another area of community tourism and dance. One would think that our folk dance can also form part of the conversation of community tourism. And we have this dance, I would say dance professional, because he is getting his master's in that particular area. He's having his concert on Friday 30th at Naparima Bowl from 7:30. And he will have a lot of support. Ronaldo, London, Malik Folk Performers, Northwest Laventil Cultural Movement, Lady Adana, Darren, shepherd. All of this will be on the patronage of the mayor, I understand, Alderman Junior Regello. So the name of the concert is Ashe, a benefit concert in aid of completion of his master's program. So we invite people to join that and let the folk art continue and let community tourism benefit from it. Thanks again. See you next week, and we will continue the conversation in terms of the success stories of the creative industries. We want people to come on board to tell us of their success stories of entrepreneurship projects in the area of creative industries. See you next week.
We are building human capital for the creative industries. The Maurice Academy of Design and Craft will be live on every other Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. right here on Power 102 FM. We will be discussing strategies for developing our creative sector. Join our host, Calvin Maurice, as we speak to practitioners, both local and international. The Maurice Academy of Design and Craft will share upcoming dynamic training sessions. Join us for effective tools to build your creative dreams. For upcoming courses, please call 289-8054 or visit our Facebook page, The Maurice Academy of Design and Craft, changing lives the creative way.